Hi guys, it's Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in this video I'm gonna do another before you buy, but this time it's for the 100 line Last Defense Academy. I feel like the Last Defense Academy is not really talked about enough. Now this is mainly because the marketing for this game is like non-existent. I've never seen a game so underhyped like this one. It's really sad to see. So I thought, you know what, I want to put a spotlight on this game, not just because it's a niche game, but because not a lot of people are talking about it and I want to talk about it. I actually am really excited for this game, and like always I'm going to give you all the info that you need to know before you buy. Also, if you want to try the game, there is currently a demo out for Steam and the Nintendo Switch, which was a very good move on their part, and that's probably like the only marketing they've done for the game thus far. Alrighty, but before we get to the video, I'm sorry, one more thing. If you end up liking this video or find it helpful, then please hit that like button, and if you're loving this before you buys or will want to see more when it comes to JRPGs, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate it. Alrighty, now to the video. If you care about Danganronpa, Raincode, or any of the other games created by Kotaro Ushikuchi, all of them, except Raincode, I'm not really a fan of Raincode, are amazing games. My favorite is Danganronpa and AI the Somnium Files, and honestly I wish they made another Danganronpa game, but that's besides the point. But yeah, if you're into all of those games, you will probably love the 100 line. Two Kato Games, editing Mandy here, I meant to say Tokyo Games, and Media Vision poured everything that they love into this game. Now let's move on to the consoles, the pricing, and specs. As for the consoles, the game is releasing on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. I know Steam is not a console, but you know. There is currently no news about a PS5 version or an Xbox port. Although I still feel like that's not really a hindrance because the Switch is like one of the best selling consoles, and also it's on PC, which has a huge audience. Though I do feel like if they wanted to reach more audiences, they should have at least done one for the PS5. I could be wrong, maybe they don't really need the PS5, but I feel like they really wanted to go for it, at least had the PS5. As for the Steam Deck, it is currently rated as unknown, so while you can play the game on the Steam Deck, it's not really optimized for the Steam Deck yet. It might get verified after the game releases. I played the demo on the Switch, and I could say it's kind of buggy at times. The Switch version runs at 30 FPS with a considerable drop in quality when it comes to the backgrounds. From my experience, the characters look awesome. They're very nicely detailed, but the landscape and backgrounds don't look as good as the quality we have for the characters. And while not game breaking, the frame rate did dip here and there, especially when you're using a special skill. But overall, I've played worse. And on the other hand, the Steam version runs great. As for the pricing, the game will be the typical $60, but there's also a limited edition which comes with a lot of goodies like an art book, soundtrack, a 3D diorama, a little metal pin, and a short visual novel, but that one will run you $100. I myself am just sticking to the standard edition. And with that, let's move to the next category, and that has to do with the story. I've heard a lot of people compare the story to 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which is crazy because the story is crazy, and honestly this is the aspect of the game I'm really excited about. I feel like this game is going to take a lot of twists and turns, and I'm all here for that. But let me give you a synopsis of what the story is about. In the game, you play as Takumi Sumino, who lives a ordinary life in a domed city, but the game does immediately tell you right off the get-go that something is off about this world and this city. But don't worry, you don't really have to wait long, because right in the beginning, the curtain gets pulled, because Takumi's ordinary life gets uprooted when mysterious creatures break into the town and threaten him and the people he cares about. One of them being Karuna, who is his childhood friend slash girlfriend. I mean, I think they're a thing. Takumi over here has this weird looking ghost thing telling him to sign a contract to get powers, which initially he doesn't do because who does that? But when his childhood friend Karuna gets threatened, he signs the pact and gets mysterious powers. And the way you summon these powers is kind of weird, so you essentially have to poke your heart, if you know what I mean. And for all your troubles, you get a nice transformation scene. And the ghost thing that made you sign the contract, he gives you the ability called Hero no Miya. Thanks to these powers, he could fight back against these monsters. Which, might I add, the monsters kind of look like the Dream Eaters from Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. But anyways, because of his powers being activated, Takumi gets transported to a school, where he and 14 other students have been enrolled in the Last Defense Academy. Name drop. Tasked to defend the school against creatures dubbed School Invaders. Not really a clever name if you ask me, but anyways, you have to prevent them from taking over the school essentially. Because if they did, well, let's just say that death and destruction would be inevitable. So they're pretty much the last defense for humanity in a way. Though meeting these students, you really don't get the confidence that humanity is in good hands. But hey, you work with what you got. These weird characters are tasked with protecting the school over a course of 100 days. What you do with those 100 days is up to you, because this game has multiple endings, but not just a few. The developer himself said the game has 100 different endings. Kind of overwhelming, that's the first thing I thought anyways. But to help you organize, they do have a flowchart. If you played AI The Somnium Files, you'll probably be familiar with this flowchart. And when you have 100 endings, you kind of need the organization. As I mentioned before, there are 14 different characters in this game, and let's just say they're really unique. And while I would love to go through all of them, for the sake of time, I'm just going to go over the characters that are playable in the demo. First, we have our protagonist Takumi, who is an ordinary high school student living his ordinary life until the invaders came. So little did he know that his ordinary life was gonna get crazy in about 5 minutes. He gives me the typical protagonist vibes, very indecisive and a little pessimistic, but when it has something to do with the people he loves, he will give everything he's got. When he gets powered up, he wields a katana. Next is Takamaru Yokosiji, who is your typical resident hot-headed delinquent of the group, but he has his rules that he will not break, and one of them being he does not hit women, children, or old people. He likes to get to the point, but he often starts shouting matches. But besides the tough exterior, he is honestly a nice guy. He's kind of like Kanji from Persona 4. His weapon of choice is a motorcycle, which is pretty funny, which gives him a tactical advantage in moving pretty fast and far on the map. Next is Hiroku Shizuhara. She is very cold and ruthless to the point where she offends many of the other members of the group. She fits the whole analytical archetype, and she kind of looks it too, with her glasses, prim straight hair, all black attire, and she has a bit of a sadistic side as well, and she finds great pleasure in defeating the enemies. Hiroku wields an axe, which perfectly fits her personality. Chick is crazy. Another character who has the same personality type as her but is more kooky in a way is Darumi Amaya. She is known for her very vapid mood swings and obsession with all things dark and depressing. She's obviously a fan of Danganronpa, and she wants to recreate the Danganronpa scenario, which I find funny because that character is just basically Danganronpa fans. Besides that, she has no fear of death to the point where she romanticizes it a lot, and not to a healthy degree. So yeah, Darumi is a bit of a basket case. Editing Mandy here, I forgot to mention her weapons. So she wields knives, which is a perfect weapon for her. So yeah, the next character is somewhat normal. That is Aito Osuchi. He's the one that Takumi trusts the most, because those two are honestly the more normal ones, so they have a lot in common. And Ito seems to be like a good person who really wants to help out the people that he cares for. It is stated that he is sickly, so to counteract his weak and sickly body, he has developed a really strategic and smart brain, which is something the circus group of characters really need. And his weapon of choice is a scythe, which is really symbolic because he's faced death a lot growing up, and you know how the Grim Reaper uses a scythe, but that's just my headcanon. There's also two twins, but it's kind of a weird relationship when it comes to them. I don't really want to talk about it, but yeah, those are basically some of the characters that you will meet. Oh, and before I forget, Siri is the commander of this little army, and he's basically a ghost with a brain and a heart. He has a very unique character design, and I like it. It's kind of like a Monokuma mascot meets the Raincoat Shimigami ghost, and you could tell he's not human at all, but he's very charismatic and eccentric. And although he's not outright hostile, hostile, I feel like he could be hostile if need be. And another good thing I want to announce about this game is that it's fully English voice acted. Hooray! But what about the gameplay? Well, this part is just for that. The 100 Line Academy is a cross between a visual novel and a tactical JRPG, which is weird, but roll with me. The overall game takes place over 100 in-game days and alternates between these two genres. First, you have the visual novel portion, where the players can enjoy free time by going around and chatting with the characters, or you could take part in training battles to earn more BP, which can be used to upgrade your existing skills. And finally, once accessible, you have the opportunity to explore the outside world, mainly to find material to upgrade your weapon and to continue the plot. Now bear with me, but the outside plays like a Mario Party-esque game, but the actual real fun happens when you go into combat. On certain days, there will be an emergency happening around the school, and your job is to defend the school against the raiders. Some of these objectives can be either protecting a generator or protecting someone from getting hurt. Instead of a set amount of enemies, you must face a wave of different enemies, and the last wave usually has a boss fight in it. Once it's your turn, you can control 5 different students at the same time, though they might increase it as the game goes on, but 5 was the only limit in the demo. So for the gameplay, your entire team has a set amount of action points. Managing AP is the name of the game. If you played any tactical RPG, you'll probably know it when you see it. And sometimes you really have to think about it. For example, do you want to move far into the board but attack weakly, or do you want to move in short bursts but attack very heavy? So you really got to get your tactics on. Every character has their own set of attacks and skills. The bar on the top of the screen is the voltage meter, which is another team-wide gauge that fills as the students attack or take damage. When the bar is at 100 or 200%, it allows you to access a very powerful move that does a lot of damage. Or you could also unleash a very strong ability. So yeah, the gameplay is really weird. I wouldn't say it's the first of the genre. Like I said before, it does have a lot of similarities with 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, and that to me is a good sign because I love Aegis Rim so much. Hopefully I explained the gameplay well, but if you're still kind of confused, there's always the demo where you could play it yourself. Alrighty, now moving on to the miscellaneous stuff. This is a portion where I talk about stuff that did not fit in the other categories. Mostly fun facts. First one being, the game was first revealed in 2018, which is just wild. But it was under a pseudonym like most games are, and it was called Limit X Despair. And there was also 2 promotional artworks that were released at that time, and they referenced it as being a spiritual successor of Danganronpa. I personally thought it was gonna be another Danganronpa game. I'm still kind of salty about that. Another fact was that the game was gonna be published by another company, but the deal fell flat for some reason. As a result, Tokyo Yo Games had to take out a loan just to get this game to development, which ultimately led the company being in debt as of today. And that's probably why they didn't spend much money on marketing, because yikes. This game is really depending on word of mouth, and hopefully I'm helping a little bit in that regard. So that is it for the video. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, then please hit that like button or subscribe if you end up liking my content. Also, please share this around to other people because this game is really going for that word of mouth kind of vibe, and not a lot of people know about this game, especially when Expedition 33 is coming out around the same time. Even I was gonna do an Expedition 33 before you buy instead of this one, but then I was like, you know what? This game needs to be known to more people. Editing Mandy here for the last time. I just wanted to add that Bethesda decided to shadow drop The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. The timing is just diabolical. Alrighty though, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace.